What is up, everybody? I'm NoLucksGiven, and in this video we are going to take a look at one of the sweetest plays that I have ever done in Storybook Brawl. You are not going to believe that I get away with this one, but before we get to the play, let's talk about how this game starts off, and that is going to be with Loki casting a forbidden fruit. So we'll pick up the Wizard's Familiar, roll, and then lock into a shop featuring a pair of Polywoggles. I do really like Wizard's Familiar on Loki. Not incredibly into the late game, but in this early game, it's a fine unit. It's going to be a 2-2 next turn, 3-3 turn after that, and it's just a reasonable amount of stats. And we luck out because this trophy hunter is not playing any units at all, which means we are going to get away without having to take any damage. And then we get a Shrink Ray, and the Loki is already paying out for us as we just get to pick up that entire shop that we locked. So pretty good start to the game despite the forbidden fruit. That is going to be pretty nice. And then we also get to slay with a Polywoggle because the combat RNG works out really well for us in that case. So that's going to give us a Romeo, and then Loki is going to give us a Cinderella with a roll of the die. So, like I said, everything is turning out pretty great in this game, and we will pick up 2 more units to round out our board. Stuff is going nicely. I'm going to keep Polywoggle in position 5 and then move Egg over to position 7. I don't mind if Polywoggle slays this turn, but it is not going to. Interestingly, it would have if I moved it 1 position over. So kind of funny that it wound up not slaying because I put it in like that ideal slay position. But we are now going to definitely try to slay with Polywoggle on this turn by supporting it with the Stag, get us an upgraded tier 4 unit, and we are rocking with this for Glory this turn. So I wouldn't mind winning this combat either. If we can win this combat, then we'll get a free tier 4 unit, and that, or rather tier 3 unit, sorry. We get a tier 4 unit if the Polywoggle slays, but we'll get a tier 3 unit from this for Glory as long as we can win. And with a full board, I think we're looking pretty good, though we are up against Cursed King, who is also doing pretty good for themselves, the only other undefeated player in this lobby, and we'll see what they have for us. But we've got 3 tier 3 creatures, plus a Humpty Dumpty, and then this 4/4 as well, so I'm feeling decently good about our odds. My opponent has 1 ranged unit, though they are going to get rid of our Stag, so that is kind of a bummer. We could potentially slay with the Polywoggle there, but we are indeed going to miss, and looks like we will actually be walking out of this one with a tie, which is fine, but it feels like a loss because we didn't slay with Polywoggle, we didn't get our 4 Glory, and our Humpty got cracked. So that one does kind of feel like a loss despite ultimately being a tie. Now, I think I'm just going to pick up the additional Stag and then the Brave Princess. It's only 3.1, so we can still make use of a Brave Princess here. And we're going to put the Polywoggle in that center position now, so that way it's getting buffs from both Stags and is just slightly more likely to slay as like a 4/4 or a 7/7. And then also having that Mummy and Brave Princess in the back so they can do some work with those buffs. And we can see the Wizard's Familiar now a 5/5. So pretty decent. It would have been a little bit better as a 6/6, and unfortunately our first Stag is not going to be able to get that attack in. Brave Princess is going to slay though, so that's nice, but this Unicorn attacks into Poly, so that is going to deny us that slay. We do still get the win against this Trophy Hunter, so not too shabby there. And we are pretty close to activating Cinderella next turn, so we've got some nice things going on. We can trade in our 1/1 Polywoggle for a 2/2 Polywoggle, and then I'm going to trade in that for a Mummy. And that's because we're on the 3.2 turn, so now we can level up and then transform these Polys into tier 5 units, potentially on the next turn, maybe even possibly with a upgraded Polywoggle, if we can find 1 more of those. So that's kind of the goal. We are going to be getting the treasure from Cindy next turn, so that is a little bit of something to look forward to. And let's see how much damage this pup can deal. Everybody's attacking that first stag, but when he got 2, it's decently likely at least that one of them is going to get in there. Brave Princess will get another slay this combat, and then it looks like we are going to actually be receiving our first loss as well, which is unfortunate, but you gotta lose sometimes. So we take 6 down to 32, and that's still going to put us in the top half of the lobby. We're also going to be able to slay with the Brave Princess this turn as well, because we just got the Queen's Grace on it. So all that's pretty good. I think Noble Steed is pretty reasonable with this Brave Princess as well, and the Nutcracker in the shop. Now we can get a tier 4 treasure this turn, and potentially a tier 5 treasure at some point down the line. So some nice stuff to look forward to. And I'm kind of rolling there for Polywoggles and then other pairs. Like we've got 2 stags, 2 mummies, 2 Polywoggles, and then also a Romeo that is Juliet-less. So I kind of like to find one of those things. But what I wind up finding are these crafties, and I'm going to go for it. We have to sell 3 of our units, but we get to play a pretty big unit here once we pick up these crafties, and Ring of Meteors seems good because we got the Nutcracker. It does have a little bit of a liability because it is one of our Polywoggles is a 1/1, but maybe we will be able to combine those Polywoggles in the future, and then it won't really matter that we've got a 1/1/1. So we are going to be getting a Ring of Meteors trigger onto the Nutcracker, and then my opponent also has a Falling Stars. So that's going to give us 2 Nutcracker triggers just to start the combat off. All of that is pretty nice. And then Brave Princess also going to be able to slay. Unfortunately, my opponent only has 1 unit left, so Nutcracker will not be able to complete this turn, but it will just be 1 turn away. It'll complete when our Ring of Meteors triggers at the start of our next turn. We get to grab a tier 4 treasure here, but Reduplicator I don't like. Forking Rod doesn't work on Loki. Sky Castle, I'm not the biggest fan of, at least with what we're currently doing. It can be fine. It can certainly be fine, the Sky Castle, but I just think that we are set up to do some other bigger things. So I'm going to go ahead and skip on this Sky Castle. I might have just rolled past a Lightning Dragon too, if I remember correctly, but when I see this second Lightning Dragon, I am somewhat excited to pick that up because putting a Lightning Dragon in spot 1 means that your stags get to attack first. So that's kind of nice. I'll move some things around here and wind up realizing that instead of putting that Lightning Dragon in the first spot, it's probably better to put the Polywoggle there because that way we make use of the Sting that we have in slot 1. So I will put the Lightning Dragon in the back in slot 7 and then put the Polywoggle in the front. So it'll be a little bit awkward because I was looking to combine the Polywoggles and my other Polywoggle only has 1 health. So I won't be able to use it because of the Ring of Meteors, but we will be getting that treasure from Nutcracker this turn, and then we'll be able to play this other Polywoggle next turn potentially. So that is kind of the idea. And Polywoggle is going to slay, so that'll give us a tier 5 unit, and that is always good. And then Stag's going to get in there, and then of course we got the Nutcracker trigger, like I said. So this combat is going to go pretty well for us with the upgraded Crafty in the back here, able to clean some things up, and we're sitting pretty. Loki is pretty good if you can get some good rolls on it. And speaking of good rolls, we just got an XP spell, and we also got to pick up a Mimic Chest, which Mimic Chest is also kind of sweet. You see me pointing towards the Noble Steed. We also got a pretty sweet unit to go along with the Mimic Chest and the Sting, and that is a Burning Tree. That, along with the experience, probably means we'll be able to put together a sweet trees comp this game, but we'll see what else we can find. And when I find this Lancelot, there is another really sweet thing that we can do with this Mimic Chest Sting, and that is use the Lancelot in the first spot. So now we're automatically going to get this Lancelot upgrade, and we're going to get a tier 7 treasure from it. So that is really sweet, but it's not the sweetest play ever. it's going to get even better than that. So gonna spend a little bit of time rolling. I do consider the Baba Yaga, but I think that I am looking for trees here because we've got the burning tree. We're gonna be getting a tier 7 treasure this turn as well, and tier 7 treasures just work so well with this trees comp, so that is what I'm going to be looking for. Interestingly, I should have put the Nutcracker in instead of the Brave Princess. That was just a little bit of a mistake, or even instead of the Polywoggle potentially. But there was a lot of other things to consider this turn, a lot of stuff on my mind, but we'll be able to put in the Polywoggle next turn, or at least so you would think. So what is going to happen here is we're going to see our tier 7 treasures. And one of our tier 7 treasures is Holy Grail, which is really sweet, but we're on 5.1, which means if we take Holy Grail, next turn, it will be 5.2. And the important thing about that is we are Loki. And if we were any other hero, this is an easy Holy Grail. You probably toss the Sting or the Noble Steed, doesn't really matter. You grab the Holy Grail and then you start that Holy Grail turn by rolling. And you find some XP, you pick up some burning trees, you buy 1 XP spell at some point in there, and then you keep buying more trees. However, Loki doesn't have the luxury to do that. So this is where the really cool 2000 IQ play comes in. 2000 because a Mimic Chest Holy Grail is going to give us 2000 gold. The play here is to do nothing. The Magic Sword Mimic Chest would also be good. We've got the Burning Tree in there. But I think we're good. We could also take the Excalibur. That would give us a bunch of upgraded stuff, and then we could potentially do something sweet from there. However, if we don't take this treasure, we will be able to activate it on 6.0. And again, that is really important to note on Loki specifically, because we won't be able to find XP. And honestly, it's going to go really, really well for us. This Lancelot is big enough that it's going to be able to hold the fort down against this Horde Dragon and even hit this Horde Dragon for a little bit of damage. Little do they know, we didn't even make a move this turn and we are an XP up. So now what we do is we take the Holy Grail. We can toss the Sting or the Noble Steed. I'm thinking, okay, in my Holy Grail turn, I'm probably going to pick up a Hercules. Probably doesn't matter. So like the Sting probably doesn't matter, I mean. So now what we can do is we just want to try to play the strongest board that we can for this turn. Probably means that we put the Nutcracker in instead of the Brave Princess. I do somewhat consider the Polywoggle angle here. Partially, that is because we could also find a piggy bank off of a Polywoggle triple, and that's kind of a dream that I'd like to at least consider. But we are not going to worry about the Polywoggles once we find another Burning Tree. We're just going to try to play the best board that we can. And one thing too here, we've got this Lightning Dragon in our hand that's just going to slow us down next turn. So I'm going to sell that Lightning Dragon. I'm not looking to triple it next turn. Holy Grail is really good right now, right this second. And honestly, it'll be just as good next patch if they move forward with the nerfs to trees that we think they're going to do, that they're testing on the beta server right now. Holy Grail, you just keep spamming that spacebar. You got it on the hotkey now, and then you pick up every Echo Wood, every Burning Tree, and every Ashwood Elm that you find. And if you do that, generally you can turn that into a game-winning play. And that's why it's so important here that I skipped, and that is going to turn us into a win. Unfortunately, my opponent has Cat's Call, which is like the most unlucky thing that could happen because that's just going to eat into the time. I'm like, okay, come on, let's do it. Let's get to the shop so that I can purchase these trees. But here we are now, 2,000 gold, 2012 gold on 6.0, and it's just time to roll for some trees. So that is basically going to be it, and then we'll see if we can get enough trees, if that is going to be enough to win the game. There is a lot more that you can do right now if you can fully unlock all the potential in your brain. Oh yeah, we're going to pick up this Hercules as well, potentially grab like a tier 7 treasure or something like that. That's too sweet to pass up. At the very least, we take the Hercules out of the pool. But like, you want to be like buying and selling things as you're rolling with spacebar, actually using both of your hands. But it's also just super important to make sure that you hyper focus on what's in the shop. I do wind up picking up a Heartwood Elder because I just rolled for a very, very long time and did not get any trees. But when it rains, it pours. We are going to find some trees eventually. And Mimic Chest Singing Sword is quite the treasure combination to pick up. I will attempt to pick up a additional Heartwood Elder there. But because I place it over top of the stag, I actually don't buy it. So that's really interesting to note too, because I have a full bench. I will then triple the burning trees and grab a Staff of the Old Toad, which just means we get to see a bunch more trees. We did not find an Ashwood Elm, but we're still pretty strong for the turn, and we lock a shop with an Echo Wood plus 2 Robin Woods to potentially consider next turn as well. But the main thing here is, are we strong enough to just get out of this one without dying? And if we are, I think we're going to be okay once we start to scale this board, and if we ever eventually find an Ashwood Elm, that is going to obviously be really good for us. And not only do we not die here, but we actually win and beat the lobby leader. So all that is still looking pretty good for us. I'll throw another Echo Wood in, and I definitely want to make use of this Hercules, but I don't think I am, or I'm just gonna pick up more burning trees. That's all I got to say. I don't want to pick up the Robin Woods. That's what I was getting at. And then we roll into an Ashwood Elm. So stuff is looking pretty good here. I don't think we can sell to pick up this Ashwood Elm this turn. That would require selling the whole bench, the Heartwood Elder, and the Hercules, and that includes an Echo Wood in that. So I just don't think that that is worth it. But I think that we are plenty strong right now with the Heartwood Elder plus the front line full of burning trees, and then all of these Echo Woods here plus the Hercules. And we'll grab a tier 6 treasure from that. Honestly, we don't really even need the tier 6 treasure from Hercules. It was more exciting when it was going to be a tier 7 treasure, but we kind of had to pick up the Staff of the Old Toad. It was just so good, and I'm not really willing to get rid of Mimic Chest or Singing Sword, so we will be tossing the Staff of the Old Toad next turn, actually, and that's a fine thing to toss because we'll be able to pick up this Ashwood Elm, and that obviously depends on what we get from Hercules. But if we get Owls, if we get Phoenix Feather, if we get Eye or Wand of Weirding, is what I meant to say, any of those things will be fine pickups and pretty decent for us. So I think that gives us a pretty considerable amount of options. And I think that once we have one Ashwood Elm on this board, then we're basically set, because that's going to give the whole front line plus 20 attack at least. And we do see Phoenix Feather and Ivory Owl, but we also see Pandora's Box. And hey, I wanted a tier 7 treasure from this Hercules, so let's see if we can't get ourselves a tier 7 treasure. What do you say? We'll wind up rolling for a little bit more to see if we can't find another Ashwood Elm, and we actually do get there. And the math works out pretty well here because we can sell this entire bench and pick up another Ashwood Elm. It's a little bit tricky because we've got 8 units that we would realistically play, but we'll figure out some room for it. I think we probably just cut an Echo Wood because one Ashwood Elm gives plus 20, plus 40, plus 80 health to all of these Echo Woods. So yeah, you just want to play all of the Ashwood Elms that you can. I think that this is a pretty good setup here, and I think we're set up well to win the game, but really, I mean, the end of the game is going to play itself after you Holy Grail into a trees comp. This isn't like the exciting part of the video, but I did think it was really cool and really inventive, not to toot my own horn too much, but to skip a turn on Loki. And that is not something that you normally think is going to be the right play. But I think it was definitely the right play in this situation because of this perfect combination of both treasures and hero and when those things came to be. So really sweet game. I don't think we're going to have a problem here destroying this Horde Dragon, and then we are off to the finals. We will get one look at whatever is inside this Pandora's box. I don't even remember, but if it is a round table, that's absolutely insane. No way it's a round table, right? Oh, that's right. We get some extra fairy dust for this one. That one seems appropriate. I'll roll and try to find another Echowood, Burning Tree, or Ashwood Elm. We've got 2 more rolls now, 1 more roll to do it. Unfortunately, we are not going to get there, but there is actually going to be 1 more combat beyond this one because Pup is not dead yet. So let's skip ahead to this fight against Pup. And I'm assuming this will be just as easy as any of the previous ones. Let's take a look. Well, we don't know what's in that crock yet, but we do know that our Ashwood Elms have some pretty insane numbers here. 2,000 attack on that front Ashwood Elm, or that front Echowood rather, is what I meant to say. But 700 health and then 1,500 health on my Echowood in the back. So pretty crazy stuff. That is going to be a win against Pup. And now we just have to take out the Fates, and we'll also see if we can't find 1 more tree to make this a full tree board. That would also be pretty sweet. But even if it isn't, which I don't think I remember finding another tree, I don't think that happens yet. So interestingly, I should probably even be playing this 3rd Echowood. I haven't really taken the time to just sit down and figure out what the numbers are for the trees comp, and part of the reason I haven't bothered is because I've just been assuming that trees is going to get some type of nerf in the future, and it is probably going to be getting a small nerf on the next patch, but it will definitely still exist for cases of games like this where you find a Holy Grail. And I think that trees is still going to be one of the best comps to go into if you manage to put together a Holy Grail turn. So it's still probably something worth trying to figure out, though it's also going to come up so much less that maybe it won't matter either. But maybe I should have played this Echowood, maybe I shouldn't have. Who knows? Math's too complicated. We'll figure it out later. We are going to be playing up against Fates in the finals, and really, they need to come up with some scams to try to take this board down. They're going to need Cupids and Medusas and Pumpkins and all that stuff, and they don't really have it. All they have is the Deck of Many Things, which casts a Poison Apple, which doesn't even work. And I believe that bug is getting fixed in the next patch, but Poison Apple in this one does not currently work on Burning Tree. So we are going to walk away from this combat totally unscathed, actually. They're not even going to take out a single one of my units, and we're going to hit them for 17. And pretty dominating game here, and it would not have been possible if I did not skip a turn to make full use of the Holy Grail. So there you go. There is the NoLucksGiven 2000 IQ special. Hopefully you guys had fun. Thank you very much for watching. I'm NoLucksGiven. Peace.